Hi, welcome back to the Dream Printing Podcast. I am so excited for today's interview. I have the one and only Kelly Roach. She is a powerhouse woman, incredible teacher, and she's going to add so much value in today's episode. So if you don't know Kelly, Kelly was the youngest SVP of her Fortune 500 company business. She built her first company to over 7 figures while working at her corporate job. She now owns 6 different businesses. She's built an 8-figure business, and she's just amazing. You're going to be so blessed by her. Her marketing strategy, her business mindset, and also her God-given calling to the place she's in is amazing. So we talk about product-based businesses. We talked about moving into a service-based business. We talked about live launching. We talked about overall how to get started and her best advice for growing when you're just getting started on your entrepreneurial journey. So you are going to be so blessed by this. I hope you enjoy it. All right, welcome back to the Dream Printing Podcast. I am so excited. I already told you guys a lot about Kelly before we started this episode, but I'm so excited to finally welcome you to the show. Welcome, Kelly.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So as I mentioned earlier, Kelly has such an incredible background. And so I want to just dive right in. And one of my favorite questions to ask people is, where did it spark for you? The inception of a dream, where it began. You've really paved the way as such a trailblazer, as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, as a strategist, as a marketing guru. When did the spark to be an entrepreneur, to have your own business, where did that begin for you?
Yeah. Well, I never dreamed of being an entrepreneur. It was not my goal or my plan or my vision. I came from a family that struggled financially. And, when I got out in the working world, I joined a Fortune 500 firm. And really my chief aim was, work hard, get promoted, make money, never struggle financially again, learn as much as you can, grow as much as you can, and I just wanted to create a better life. That was really, I wanted to create a better life. I wanted to do good work. And I had an incredible run. I love my Fortune 500 career so much. I was promoted 7 times in 8 years. I had an incredible mentor that completely changed my life. And he just breathed so much possibility into my mindset. And, I just grew tremendously there and had the opportunity to build a team of 100 people and coach people. And I fell in love with the work. I loved business. I loved coaching people. I loved helping people achieve success. But the what and the why behind what I was doing, my soul was just not, I was not fulfilled as a person. I felt like I was working very, very hard. I was making a lot of money. I was doing well. I enjoyed managing the team, but I just didn't feel a sense of purpose, in my life with what I was doing. And, I really started asking myself, who do I want to be and what life do I want to have and how do I want to be using my talent and my gifts? And the answer to that was, I want to be helping people and I want to be making a difference in the world. And I want to help other people to relieve that financial pressure, but do it in a way that allows them to do meaningful work that is truly fulfilling for them versus feeling like they have to compromise doing, work that doesn't light them up to achieve a financial end goal. Right. And so I started my business basically to take what I had learned in the Fortune 500 world about sales and about leadership and building successful teams and implementing systems and, managing businesses, because I was managing 17 locations, and to really help small business owners understand what it actually takes to drive profitability and sustainability in a business. And I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know what was going to happen. I kept my full-time job for a long time. So I was building my business on the side of my corporate job. But I love the work. I feel like it's a privilege to have the pressure of great accountability and responsibility to serve and impact people's lives. And, I'm just happy to get to do it,
So when you were working at your corporate job and you decided to start this, let's call it a side hustle, that quickly grew into something that was well beyond what most people would call a side hustle. When did that spark begin? And then when did you go, okay, you know what? It's time to leave the dock and jump in the boat, and sail away. Like, what was that transition like?
Yeah. Well, I have a very different perspective, on financial freedom and following your dreams and stuff like that, just because, of where I came from and just what my life experience was. And that's why, I stayed at my job until I was making over 7 figures in my business. I didn't leave my full-time job until I did that. And then quickly, as soon as I became a full-time entrepreneur, I took the business from 7 to 8 figures, started launching other companies. Now I have the portfolio of 6. But the spark came up for me when I had exercised as much entrepreneurial innovation as they would allow in the company, right? So, I stretched it as far as I could, and they gave me a lot of freedom. I mean, a lot of freedom. They knew about my business. They knew about my brand. People from the company were following my journey online, and they let me do it just because the results that I was producing for them, and which was amazing. And I'm so grateful and thankful for that. But yeah, it's like, I think you kind of know when a relationship or a situation has gotten to its full development, right? And that's really what it was for me, is like, there wasn't any more for me there. And for me to use my gifts in a meaningful way and to actually stretch my skills as a leader and as a thinker and as a business person, I just had to go beyond the confines of what I was doing in that one company.
Absolutely. Yeah. I stayed at my corporate job for a year and a half before finally taking the leap. And I totally resonate with everything you said there. I didn't grow mine to 7 figures before I jumped. That's really impressive. I work with a lot of incredible entrepreneurs who are just starting off on their journey, for most part. And I would love to know, what is some of your key advice you have for early entrepreneurs who are making anywhere from 0 to 10K months, especially when it comes to marketing? And it sounds like this is probably a loaded question, but you have 6 businesses. You must have incredible systems and teams and just incredible people on staff to be able to do all of that while still having your own life, raising your daughter, doing all the things. So
100%. Yeah.
I have a zillion questions for you.
Yeah. I mean, I play a very small role in each of my companies from my perspective. And, I've been building my own team for over 10 years. And even when I start a new company, I promote people over from other companies to run them, so that they know the brand, they know me, they understand how we operate, they understand our go-to-market strategy. Even though that's a little bit different for each company, there's still core principles that are the same. So, and that kind of ties into exactly what my advice would be, because one thing I really enjoy is I like having mature and advanced businesses, but I also like having businesses that are in startup mode, because it keeps me attached to the things that are relevant and meaningful for people at all different stages, because I think sometimes you could get out of touch with what it's like for someone that's just starting if you're just running this huge company that has millions of dollars of advertising spend. But that said, I would say the 3 most important things for someone starting out to produce income to invest in are team, advertising, and mentorship. Absolutely, without a doubt. It's what I did. It's how I was able to do what I did. The only reason I could get to 7 figures while I was working a full-time job is because I did advertising and I had a team that was working when I was working. So those are the 3 most important things. And then obviously it depends on the kind of business that you're in and who your target end user is. If you're selling a product and you want to make wholesale deals, then you need to build a Dream 100 list. You need to be, incredibly disciplined about following up, every other week for as long as it takes, to build relationships, to get in touch with the right people, all of those things. If you're building more of a business to consumer brand, then you need to be on social. You need to be live streaming. You need to be doing podcasting. You need to be getting market facing. I call it mic time, right? Whether you're speaking, whether you're on a live stream, whether you're doing a podcast, you're doing a joint live, whatever it is. But the marketing is absolutely everything. But I think it's, who are you marketing to? What is the one thing that you want to be known for? Who is the person that wants, needs, and can afford what you're offering? And then making sure that your strategy is aligned with that.
That's incredible. That's great advice. Team, go through them again one more time.
Team, advertising, and mentorship.
Team, advertising, and mentorship. Who were some of the biggest mentors that you really looked up to when you were in that startup phase?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I had a mentor for 15 years in corporate that was still my mentor when I started my business. His name is Dave. He's not in the online space. No one would know him. He worked in corporate and now he's a grandpa and he's offline completely. So he was my biggest mentor in my life, just in general. When I first started my business, Allie Brown was the first coach that I invested in, who is wonderful. She's now a friend of mine. We've had just a great relationship for many years, but she had a program called Elevate back in the day. I think I signed up for that in like 2013. And that was my first introduction to online marketing, actually, because I had sold business to business in corporate. So I was doing like big deals in corporate and I was cold calling and going business to business and meeting in person. So I was very, very strong in sales, leadership, team building, P&L management, business management, but internet marketing was completely new to me. So I signed up for that program with Allie before I even had a client. And that's one of the smartest things that I did that allowed me to learn online marketing in real time while I was building it versus trying to figure it out and then later investing after you're like, oh my gosh, I just wasted all these years and all this time. And that's why I say mentorship is like one of the first things as early as humanly possible. And especially it's just kind of assessing what you know and what you don't know. I didn't know online marketing. So I immediately signed up to work with someone that was going to allow me to learn online marketing,
Absolutely. It's critical. I invested in a lot of mentorships along the way, still am. So when you're working with people, what would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the world of entrepreneurship? Or even marketing, like maybe
how hard the work is, how much work it is. I mean, I just think entrepreneurship overall has been glamorized, and it's not glamorous at all. There's nothing glamorous about it. And, I talk about this all the time online. I talk about this to my clients. I talk about this on my podcast. I talk about this on my socials. It is not glamorous. And I always tell people, like, don't get in it. If you think you're going to work less and earn more, please don't be an entrepreneur. And I will say that's coming from someone who I now work less and earn more. But what I went through and what I had to give of myself and the sacrifice and the time over a decade to get to that point, that's a very different story, right? But what's being sold to a lot of people is that by making the decision to become an entrepreneur, maybe putting in a year or 2 years or even 5 years, that's what you're going to expect or see. And it's just not a realistic thing. And I think it's caused a lot of psychological damage for a lot of people because they think they're failing. They think they're not capable. They think they're not worthy. It has nothing to do with any of those things. Building a business is unbelievably hard. There's a reason why 85% of them fail. And so you have to do it because you believe that part of why God put you here was to serve out this mission and this way. And it has to be your vocation on such a deep level that this is what you're doing. Like, this is what you're doing with your life. Like, you're not fueled by motivation. You're not fueled by a good day or a sale or a dopamine hit. You're fueled by wanting to live the purpose of your life and wanting to fulfill the mission of your life that's completely unique to you. And so that would be the biggest piece of advice that I would give to people. And a lot of people, when you start your journey, you feel like really confused and overwhelmed, and you don't even know if you're doing the right thing. And like, you don't know until you know. Like no one ends up where they started. So you just have to start, right? You just have to start. And then you have to allow each failure to then point you to the next right thing. And I think your relationship with failure is the number one thing that will determine your level of success as an entrepreneur. Absolutely. And I think when you can learn how to remove emotion from failure and instead extract information, you have like an unbeatable competitive advantage and you'll become the leader in your space. And I did that. And I was no one. I had no contacts. I had no social media. I had no network. I had no anything. I was working a job still. And, you know, how many female leaders have built 8-figure companies in the online space? I can tell you not a lot because I tried to put together a summit and I had my team do a bunch of research and I'm like, go find every 8-figure, you know, woman in the online space. And they come back with like 5 names. And I'm like, this is unacceptable. And that's when I really started talking more about like, you know, building 8-figure businesses and all of those things, because, you know, a business that goes to 8 figures allows you to do a level of innovation and work creatively in the world that a business that's just struggling to get by can't do. So like society in the world actually needs people to be successful at that next level, to solve meaningful problems and to contribute in a bigger and more meaningful way. And I think a lot of people have an issue with claiming that level of success, not realizing, like for me, like I gainfully employ so many people in my organization. Their whole lives have been changed. They are the supporters and breadwinners in their families, right? And so I think we just have to like flip that narrative a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, the profit of your business is the oxygen of the business. It's how it sustains it, how it continues to live. I heard one of your quotes that said, "It doesn't get easier, you get stronger."
Yeah.
And that's so true. I totally believe that. And our relationship with failure is critical when we can look at it as data versus look at it as a piece of drama and say, this isn't drama. Let's just look at the data and move on. We can grow beyond it, because I know in my journey, I've had so many instances where something failed or even someone tried to rip me off or copy me. And I just felt within that drama space and, you know, felt like giving up, or I felt like going on the defense and attacking, and it just stole all my creativity. It took the joy out of the purpose of the calling I had for my business and the whole point of it. And so the more we can focus on the data of it and move on from it, the more successful we can be.
100%.
That's so true. So true. So for some people, this is a question someone asked me to ask you. So I have a couple of my print school students who have a product-based business. They've got their planner or their journal or their guided devotional, and they're like wanting to put a course with it. And I'm curious what your advice would be, kind of stepping out of product and maybe marrying it with a course or a coaching business. Any piece of advice there in terms of just any of it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I have a retail line through Give Her Courage, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of hard things. And so, you know, obviously the margins are so thin on products. Obviously, I have my Unstoppable Planner. I've had it for years, you know, whatever. The margins are so thin. There's so many uncontrollables. There's a lot of elements of physical products that are really challenging. And so if you can marry that with a digital course that costs you $0 to deliver, that's going to be a phenomenal way for you to raise additional funds for sales and marketing and to get your brand in front of the right decision makers so that you can get some of those bigger deals, so that you can sell in bulk versus, you know, trying to sell one-to-one. So, I mean, I love that idea personally, having come from both sides. I would love to see, you know, some of your listeners add that into the mix.
Yeah. And I know you wrote the book on live launching, which is absolutely brilliant, incredible. And you've been doing that for a while. I want to touch on that a bit and ask you, you know, from when you started live launching to today, what piece of it or element or execution point have you maybe said, that's kind of old and dated, let's not do that anymore? And what piece or element or tactic are you using now that you have to do it because it's 2024? I'm just kind of curious what might have changed in that landscape.
Well, it's so funny that you asked that because I literally came to this interview directly from a live launch live session where I'm teaching advanced live launch techniques for $1 million CEOs and their teams. And I would love to give you the replay that you could just drop down below the episode, because the first session, I talked about the 10 things that have changed in 2024 that you need to change in the way that you're launching. A lot of people who previously had a lot of success launching really saw their launches just crumble over the last year and a half. And it's because the market has changed, the economy has changed, consumer mentality has changed, online marketing has shifted into a new phase of maturity. And so like you really have to change a lot of the nuances of your go-to-market strategy. The live launch in and of itself, like the framework, it's still the same. Still the same, right? It is what it is, but there are a lot of little things that do need to change. Probably not enough time to cover all of them here, but I would love to offer that replay. What I would say is, one of the biggest things for people to be aware of is that most people are now buying on launch 2 to 4. And so what you do in between your launches is as important as what you do in your launches, because people are buying based on having a relationship, with your organization or with you much more than they're just buying for an end result, which is how they were buying like a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And so just making sure you have a really good in between launch strategy and making sure that people are coming to more than one launch is really important. So like the way that I think about it when we do a launch now is we have organic lead generation, and this is where almost all of our sales are going to come from. And then we run advertising. And these people that we run advertising from are going to become our organic leads in the next launch. So we're always filling the top of the funnel with the sales for the future. But we know in our minds, okay, when we set our launch target, the vast majority of those sales are going to come from that organic list that already have attended something in our world. And then we know that the people that we just brought in from ads are going to be the next cycle of sales that come in.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And so you're in the middle of a live launch right now. Wow.
I am.
That's amazing. I heard another thing on your podcast that tweaked my ear, and I'm super curious about, because I love habit hacking and routines and all of that. And I've been hearing you talk about the miracle morning. Can you give our listeners a little tidbit about that?
Yeah. So this is how the Miracle Hour came about. So when I was in corporate and I started my business, I had about an hour a day to do sales and marketing for my business. So I would literally go out in my car on my lunch break, which I had never taken a lunch break before, by the way. I would just work from like morning until night. But then when I was like, okay, if I want to build this business, like I have to take a lunch break. So I made this little index card for myself, and I broke the index card down and I said, what can I grow? What can I do to grow my business if I have 30 minutes? And I wrote down all the things. And then I was like, what can I do if I only have 15 minutes? And I wrote down all the things. What if I have 5 minutes? What if I have 1 minute? So I lived by this index card, and I used this, and I would religiously, like I would go out to my car, I would make calls, I would send text messages, I would follow it. So then fast forward to today, now I have very large teams, big companies. We can't be in launches all the time, right? Some of my companies don't even launch. That's not how they sell. And so I was like, okay, I need a system that I can teach my team that they can do to make sales every day. And so I basically took that little system that I had in an hour a day that I used to grow my business when I was a new entrepreneur, turned it into the Miracle Hour, taught my team, and now this is what we do in our companies every single day. And actually, it's really interesting because, we had it so all of the companies within their own teams were doing it separately, and starting the second week of September, they're all coming together. So we're all going to be together for Miracle Hour every day, which is awesome. I do also have a free training on how to do the Miracle Hour. I can have my team send you the link, and you can include it for your listeners. But no matter what kind of business you're running, whether it's a product business, whether it's a service business, like whatever it is, the biggest thing that I have seen I started my business in 2012, helping people grow. I've helped people create 6, 7, 8-figure businesses. I have clients that have done just unbelievable things. And I will tell you, the vast majority of businesses, the reason why they struggle so much is they're not doing outbound activity. And even an hour a day, the Miracle Hour is an hour a day. Like most people aren't even doing that. And then they're like, my business isn't growing. I'm not making sales. I don't know how to move the business forward. And that's not true. It's not that you don't know how to move the business forward. It's not that you're not doing activity in a systematic way every single day that's going to put profits in your pocket. And so, if you're a business owner and you can't find an hour a day to sell and market in your business, you're probably not going to stay in business. So you need to find that hour. Like, there's nothing more important, right? And so that's why for my team, it's the first thing they do every day, because we spend millions and millions of dollars a year on people's salaries. Like, we can't employ all of these people if there isn't a profit plan that connects to the roles that they have in the company, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And your background in sales for so long set you up to be such an incredible voice in this. And also, I just believe that sales also helps you deal with failure because it's part of your everyday job.
Yeah.
So your skin gets thicker, you're able to handle that. And so that just blends itself into entrepreneurial life so well. One thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap it up is your faith journey, and not just your faith journey, but your open faith journey in your business now. I've heard you speak to some folks about, this being more of a public thing. And I'm just curious, how has being more open with your faith in this entrepreneurial journey changed things for you?
Yeah. Well, it's the greatest decision I ever made. For 10 years, I kept my faith very private. It was like, this is my personal life. This is what I do in my own time. I never talked about it, never shared about it. And I was like really, really nervous to like start talking about it and start including it in the business. And but I just felt like it got to a point where, I wouldn't even be in business anymore if it weren't for my faith. And I got to a point where I was like, number one, I don't even want to do this anymore if I can't like talk about what I really believe and share it openly. And number two, I felt like it wasn't being transparent with people about how I deal with things on a daily basis if I wasn't acknowledging that it is through my faith and through my prayer life and through my inner work and, all of those things. And I was like, I don't feel like it's giving the real story. And so I did it. And, of course, there were a few people like right away that were like, this isn't for me, like, no, thank you, whatever. But the response has been unbelievable. Like unbelievable. I have seen people just come out of the woodworks. And the most beautiful and best part about doing this is I have had countless people come to me and say, your courage gave me courage. Now I'm going to share about my faith. And that is what we need. We need more believers and we need more people that are openly glorifying God in everything that they're doing and acknowledging the gift that even doing the work that we do is. All of our success comes in and through God. And, the fact that I can play a little role in people who wouldn't have otherwise shared it, saying, now because of you, I have the courage, like that's worth it in and of itself. The other really interesting thing, and I think it's all in how you do what you do and how you say what you say. And I think I've seen people do that well and do that poorly. And it's one of the reasons I was really hesitant. But I've actually had people come to me that said, I just went back to church for 10 years. I just bought my first Bible. I have people exploring Christianity that like weren't even people of faith before. And so I think that like how you're being and who you're being, it can really make a difference. And I think the way that I've introduced it has created a real invitation for people. And I would just encourage anyone that's listening to the show today, if there's a part of yourself that you feel really called to share, to do that. And especially if you have a voice, you have a platform, big or small, if you are a person of faith, like we are absolutely in spiritual warfare right now. And we 100% need you. We need people bringing this back onto the main stage, into the conversation every day, standing up and bringing this back into our culture, because a lot of people are suffering because of the way that it's been removed from everyday life. I see it every single day.
I really don't know how anyone has a business without a relationship with God, because there's been so many times in my journey where it was just like, I'm not tearing my clothes and putting on a cloth sack, but I am just like, I don't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
this is what it is. Like, maybe my
Yeah.
container unit was trapped at customs and that's all
Yep.
my product, or just
For
something
sure.
completely out of my control. And you're like, there's been so many times of just constant surrender, surrender, surrender. And God's like, okay, boop, here you go. And
Yeah.
the things that he's done, the miracles he's performed through my trust and surrender, there's not even a playbook for that. Like, in some of the ways he did it, I would have never strategized that way. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so there's just so much power in being unapologetically Christian with love, with grace, with open arms to all people. And so I just commend you for being a light. It's obviously creating such incredible ripples and impact, and helping women elevate and step into the calling that they're meant to have. So thank you so much for coming on the show and blessing us. Where can we all find more of Kelly Roach's goodness?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the Kelly Roach Show, I would invite anybody listening to come. Most of the episodes are 20 minutes or less, but they're like super power packed, really, intentional and designed to help you to grow your business and grow as a person in the process. And I'll share some resources that you can share below the episode too, for Miracle Hour and for the live lunch and those things that people can grab if they want to learn more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks
We
for
really
having me. Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.